The box cutter sang past my cheek and buried itself in the drywall with a dull, horrifying thunk. Dust floated in the strip lights. My breath snagged somewhere in my throat. Victor lowered his arm like nothing had happened, like throwing sharp objects at employees was just another ordinary Tuesday morning at the warehouse. My chair scraped back hard against the concrete floor. I didn't cry. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. I looked around the room and saw 20 faces staring at me, waiting to see if I would fold under pressure or fight back against him. I chose neither option. Not yet, anyway. My hands trembled violently under the desk, where nobody could see them shaking. The blade still quivered in the wall directly behind me, a silver threat catching the harsh overhead lights. Victor straightened his tie slowly and walked back to his desk as casually as if he'd just filed boring paperwork instead of nearly taking my eye out with a weapon. I touched my cheek carefully with shaking fingers. No blood anywhere. Just pure dumb luck. My heart hammered so hard against my ribs I thought everyone in the entire warehouse could hear it pounding. But I stayed planted in my seat. I stayed quiet and still. I was already calculating something much bigger than screaming or running away scared. I'm June Avery, operations analyst on a warehouse floor that always smells like stale cardboard and cold burnt coffee. I've worked here for 3 long years, processing endless orders and managing tedious inventory counts for minimum respect. When Victor growled at me that morning, "You forgot my cappuccino," the words tasted like rust and anger in my mouth. He stood directly over my desk with his thick arms crossed tight, deliberately blocking the fluorescent light hanging above me. "I'm not your personal barista," I said clearly. My voice came out much steadier than I actually felt inside my chest. The entire room went completely silent in an instant. Keyboards stopped their constant clicking. Phone conversations died mid-sentence and hung in the air. Victor's cocky grin twitched hard at the corner. A visible muscle spasm that told me I'd crossed some invisible line he didn't even know existed until that exact moment. His face turned bright red first, then an ugly purple color. That's precisely when his hand moved down to the box cutter hanging on his belt. I watched him grab it with his fat fingers. I watched him pull his muscular arm back. I watched the silver blade leave his hand and fly straight toward my face. Then I watched something inside me, the fear I'd carried for years, loosen one stubborn tight knot. Nobody moved a muscle after the blade hit the wall hard. Mateo's hand hovered frozen over his scanner like he'd suddenly turned into a stone statue. Jordan's cursor blinked steadily on an empty cell on her computer monitor. Forgotten. The box cutter still quivered and shook in the drywall, stuck surprisingly deep into the surface. "Back to work, all of you." Victor barked at everyone loudly, his usually strong voice cracking slightly on the last word. But our eyes kept meeting over computer monitors and tall pallet stacks throughout the warehouse. Something silent and powerful passed between us, a quiet agreement forming without anyone saying a single word out loud. It felt like the air in the warehouse had suddenly changed temperature overnight. Victor didn't hear it happening, but the floor had definitely shifted under his heavy feet. I saw Jordan mouth something urgent to Mateo across the busy room. He nodded slowly in understanding. By the old water cooler, 2 other workers exchanged meaningful glances that lasted much longer than usual between coworkers. The shipping manager, standing in the far corner, pulled out his phone immediately and started typing something important. Victor stomped back to his glass office and slammed the door hard enough to rattle all the windows violently. We all went back to scanning cardboard boxes and updating boring spreadsheets like before. But absolutely everything felt fundamentally different now between us. I packed orders carefully with Jordan at the loading table during our slow afternoon shift. She leaned in close to me and whispered nervously, "He's going to bury you completely for what you said to him." Her worried eyes darted quickly toward Victor's glass office across the floor. "Maybe he will," I said quietly, sliding a shipping label onto a brown box as smooth as a final decision I'd already made in my mind. "But we're all under the same shovel anyway, Jordan. He treats absolutely everyone here like dirt under his shoes." She nodded slowly, understanding and recognition flickering across her tired face. I wasn't building some complicated legal case yet against him. I wasn't planning any kind of dramatic confrontation scene. I was building something much simpler and infinitely harder. I was building a spine inside myself. For 3 long years, I'd watched Victor throw childish tantrums, kick metal trash cans across the floor, and scream directly at people until they actually cried at their desks. I'd watched genuinely good workers quit suddenly after just 2 weeks because they absolutely couldn't handle his constant abuse anymore. I'd kept my head down low and told myself repeatedly it wasn't my problem to fix. But that box cutter flying past my face changed something fundamental and permanent inside me. When someone deliberately throws a sharp blade at your face, you either disappear completely forever, or you become someone entirely different and stronger. The next morning, Victor kicked open the meeting room door so hard it bounced off the wall. "June, I need the inventory variance report immediately, right now." My notes were already prepared and ready, but my pulse pounded louder than ever. "You'll have it," I said calmly, "when you learn to ask me respectfully like a professional." Several chairs creaked loudly in the sudden silence. 3 people sitting around the table repeated my exact words, soft as a prayer being whispered. "When you ask respectfully." Yeah, respectfully. Like professionals do. Victor's face learned a brand new color I'd never seen before on anyone. His neck turned almost purple, while his cheeks burned bright red like fire. He opened his mouth twice, but nothing came out either time. His authority was draining away visibly in front of everyone watching. Finally, he managed to choke out, "Fine. June, may I please have the variance report?" The sarcasm dripped heavily from every single word. "Of course," I replied smoothly, sliding the folder across the long table toward him. "That wasn't so incredibly hard, was it?" Mateo coughed loudly to hide his sudden laugh. Jordan stared down at her laptop to hide her growing smile. Victor snatched the folder violently and stormed out fast, slamming another door behind him. The room exhaled together, like we'd all been holding our breath underwater. Victor tried hard to laugh the whole thing off afterward, making a sound exactly like a broken stapler, jamming repeatedly. "Real cute, June. Very funny." He started listing random tasks like grenades with pins already pulled out. "Mateo, resort the entire back inventory by noon today. Jordan, recount every single pallet manually. June, I want reports on my desk every hour starting immediately." We didn't refuse his orders outright. We just didn't scramble frantically like trained dogs anymore. The room operated at normal human speed now, not fear speed like before. We moved deliberately, carefully, taking our time with everything properly. Control slipped steadily out of his hand like a wet tool covered in oil. He paced constantly in his glass office, making angry phone calls and slamming things around. We could see him through the windows, watching us not panic. By 3 o'clock, he came back out looking somehow smaller than before. "Why isn't anything done yet?" he demanded loudly. "Because you assigned 8 hours of work in 3 hours of time," I answered simply. "We're human beings, not machines that run on fear." Mateo nodded firmly in agreement. "We're doing quality work, not rushed garbage," Jordan added confidently. Victor opened his mouth again, then closed it slowly. He'd lost something important, and we'd found it lying on the floor. The power balance had shifted completely underneath all of us. Lunch in the cramped break room tasted like relief and microwaved pasta. "If he throws anything else at anyone," Jordan said firmly, "I'm walking straight out that door." "We all are," Mateo added quickly, looking around the table at everyone. I carefully set my plastic fork down and felt my hands finally stop shaking for the first time all day. For the first time in 3 years, the word "we" had real muscle behind it instead of just being empty air. It meant something solid. "We should document everything that happens," suggested Riley from shipping, who'd been quiet until now. "Dates, times, witnesses, everything." "I already started," I admitted, pulling out my phone to show them. "I've got photos of the box cutter still stuck in the wall. I've got the exact time stamped." Everyone stared at the image on my screen. The blade looked even more threatening in the photograph somehow. "Send that to all of us," Mateo said urgently. "We'll back you up completely on everything." One by one, phones came out around the table. People started typing notes, comparing stories, building a timeline together. What started as my problem had become our problem. What started as my fight had become our fight together. Victor had made one crucial mistake by attacking me publicly. He'd united us against him without realizing what he'd done to himself. Victor cornered me later at the rack aisle, his voice dropping low and threatening. "You need to apologize publicly for your disrespect." The fluorescent lights buzzed loudly, filling the uncomfortable gap between us with electrical noise. "Apologize for what exactly?" I asked calmly, keeping my voice steady and clear. "For not getting your coffee? For not being your servant?" His jaw clenched tight. His hand moved toward a tape gun sitting nearby on a shelf. He picked it up slowly, weighing it in his hand like he was considering his options carefully. Then he thought better of whatever he was planning and set it back down hard. He turned and walked away stiffly without another word. Bullies hate cameras, and we were the cameras now, always watching. Every single person on the floor had become a witness to his behavior. He couldn't corner people alone anymore without everyone knowing about it immediately afterward. When he disappeared back into his office, I pulled out my phone and texted the whole group. He just threatened me again at the rack aisle, picked up a tape gun. Within seconds, responses flooded back. Documented. Time-stamped. We saw. The web was tightening around him slowly. Every action he took now had 20 pairs of eyes watching and recording. He'd created his own surveillance system by terrorizing us in public for so long. By midweek, the box cutter's story had lived a dozen different lives in other departments throughout the building. Each version agreed on the basic arc: throw, wall, silence, change. People I barely knew started sending me quiet nods in hallways, small acts of bravery stacked carefully like shipping cartons. Even the nervous temp at the front reception desk stopped jumping fearfully when Victor stomped past her. He was becoming the rumor he'd earned through years of abuse. The story spread to the second floor where the accountants worked. It reached the third floor where management had their offices. I heard it mentioned in the parking lot between people from completely different shifts. "Did you hear what happened in operations? Victor actually threw a blade at someone?" June Avery stood up to him. My name was attached to it now, whether I wanted that or not. On Wednesday afternoon, a woman from HR named Kelly approached me quietly by the vending machines. "Is it true?" she asked carefully. "Do you have evidence?" I showed her my phone without saying anything. She studied the photo for a long moment, her face getting progressively more serious. "Come to my office tomorrow morning at 8, she said quietly. "Bring everything you have documented." She walked away quickly. The official wheels were finally starting to turn slowly. The warehouse floor felt different now, charged with possibility and change. Victor scheduled an alignment meeting for 4 o'clock Thursday and showed up 15 minutes late to his own meeting. "Here's exactly how this is going to go from now on," he announced, standing at the head of the table. "No," I interrupted him clearly. "Here's how it actually goes now. No yelling, no personal errands, no objects leaving your hand toward people." The silence that followed felt electric. Mateo calmly slid a printed copy of our official job descriptions down the long table like a dealer sliding cards. "Coffee isn't anywhere in here," he said simply. "Neither is dodging weapons." Jordan added, "Our job is operations and inventory. That's it." Victor's face cycled through several colors rapidly. "You're all being completely insubordinate right now." "No," I corrected him firmly. "We're being professional. There's a difference you've never learned." Riley from shipping spoke up. "We all talked to HR this morning, together." That wasn't completely true yet, but Victor didn't know that fact. His eyes widened slightly. "You what?" "We documented everything," Jordan confirmed. "Every incident, every witness, every threat. Silence can clap when it needs to. It did right then." Victor stood frozen at the head of the table, realizing he'd lost control of the entire narrative. He'd lost control of us. "This meeting is over," he finally muttered. "No," I said. "It's just beginning." Victor canceled 2 scheduled one-on-ones on Friday and called in, working from home for the entire next day. We finished the entire backlog without him anywhere near us, and the floor felt noticeably lighter, like someone had finally opened a window in a stuffy room. Productivity actually increased without his constant interruptions. People smiled more. The tension that usually lived in everyone's shoulders seemed to melt away gradually. I caught my reflection in the break room microwave during lunch, and almost didn't recognize the person staring back at me. I looked different somehow, straighter, stronger. I wasn't actually braver than before, I realized. I was just less alone now. That made all the difference. "We should enjoy this while it lasts," Matteo said, though he was smiling. "He'll come back angrier." "Let him," Jordan replied confidently. "We're ready now. We're together." And we were. The weekend stretched ahead like a gift. I spent Saturday morning at the beach, feeling the sun on my face and breathing deeply. For the first time in weeks, my phone buzzed occasionally with messages from the group. Funny memes about terrible bosses, updates on HR appointments, words of encouragement. We'd become more than coworkers. We'd become allies. When Monday morning came, I wasn't dreading it like usual. I was ready for whatever came next. We all were. Victor returned on Monday morning with a box of expensive donuts and a calculated bonus rumor. "Top performers will get $50 gift cards this month," he announced loudly. His eyes pointed directly at the people closest to me. The bribe was obvious. He wanted to divide us, split our unity. Nobody moved toward the donut box sitting on the table. It sat there like a test we were all passing together. Jordan said clearly, "Respect is cheaper than pastries, Victor." Laughter rippled around the room, quick and bright like summer lightning. People weren't afraid to laugh at him anymore. That was new. That was powerful. "I'm trying to do something nice here," Victor protested, his voice getting defensive. "Nice would be apologizing for throwing a weapon," I pointed out. "Nice would be treating us like humans." "Nice would be leaving us alone to do our jobs," Matteo added. The donuts sat untouched all morning. By noon, they'd gone stale and hard. Victor eventually threw the whole box in the trash violently, the lid slamming. His bribes tasted like sawdust and desperation. He'd shown his hand. He was worried now. He knew his position was weakening. That afternoon, he tried a different approach, pulling people individually into his office. "Just between us," I heard him say to Riley, "June is causing problems for everyone." But Riley came out and immediately told us everything. The divide and conquer strategy wasn't working anymore. We were vaccinated against it now. I didn't file a dramatic manifesto with HR. I sent 3 simple sentences through the official portal. A tool was thrown at me. "I don't feel safe. We need a meeting." By late afternoon, other people had added their own 3 sentences to the growing pile. I witnessed the incident. It was deliberate. "I'm concerned about safety." He threw it at her face. It stuck in the wall. "This is dangerous." The theme wasn't punishment or revenge. It was protection and change. A chorus made of short notes can shake a ceiling when enough voices join together. By Tuesday morning, my inbox had an official response. "Meeting scheduled for Thursday 10 a.m. with safety officer and HR director." The tone was serious. The investigation was real. I forwarded the email to our group chat. Within minutes, responses flooded back. Thumbs up emojis, fist bumps. "Finally. About time. We've got your back." Riley messaged privately, "I'm bringing my documentation too." He screamed at me until I cried last month. I never reported it. Jordan wrote, "He accidentally knocked my coffee onto my laptop once. I have witnesses." The floodgates were opening now. Years of abuse were bubbling to the surface. Victor had created this situation himself through years of terrorizing people. Now those same people were finding their voices together. The warehouse floor buzzed with quiet energy. Change was coming. We could all feel it approaching like distant thunder before a cleansing storm. 2 HR representatives and a safety officer traced Victor's path through the warehouse on Wednesday with official clipboards. "Where exactly did the incident occur?" they asked me formally. I pointed directly to the blade scar in the drywall, still visible as a pale mouth opened in permanent shock. Nobody had removed it yet. Victor stood nearby with his arms crossed defensively. "It's completely exaggerated," he said dismissively. "Things get tossed around in brick warehouses all the time." The safety officer's pen didn't pause in her writing. "Box cutters don't get tossed at employees' faces, Mr. Hale." Her voice was ice cold. "That violates approximately 7 safety protocols." She took photographs from multiple angles. She measured the distance from Victor's desk to my chair, 12 feet. She examined the depth of the blade in the wall, nearly an inch deep. "This required significant force," she noted aloud. "Facts don't need volume to be heard. They simply exist." The HR representatives interviewed Matteo next. then Jordan, then Riley. Each person told the same story with the same details. The consistency was damning. No contradictions, no exaggerations. Just truth repeated in different voices. By afternoon, they'd spoken to 15 people total. Every single one confirmed the incident and added their own stories of Victor's behavior over the years. I watched Victor's confident expression slowly crack and crumble. He hadn't expected this level of unified testimony against him. Upper management announced an emergency all-hands meeting for Friday morning. The email went out Thursday night. Mandatory attendance. Operations department. Victor sat in the front row when we entered, arms folded tight, his eyes locked on me like crosshairs targeting an enemy. I felt my heartbeat pounding hard in my wrists. My mouth was dry. When the operations director asked formally, "Does anyone have concerns to share?" I stood up slowly. The room went silent. "On Tuesday of last week," I said clearly, "a box cutter flew past my face and embedded itself in the wall." My voice didn't shake. Gasps rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Gasps are a kind of weather, I realized. A storm rolled into that room, and Victor definitely hadn't brought a coat. The operations director leaned forward. "Can you elaborate on the circumstances?" I described everything. The coffee demand, my refusal, the throw. I kept my voice calm and factual. No drama needed. The facts were dramatic enough alone. When I finished, the director asked, "Are there witnesses?" 20 hands went up simultaneously throughout the room. 20 hands. Victor's face went completely white. He tried to sink lower in his chair. There was nowhere to hide now. The truth was out in the open air, official and witnessed. His kingdom was crumbling in real time, and everyone could see it happening. Victor tried desperately to spin the narrative in his favor. It slipped from my hand. "She's being overly dramatic about everything." His voice was defensive, almost whining. Then Jordan stood up from her seat. "I watched you throw it deliberately. I saw your arm go back." Her voice was steady and clear. Mateo stood next. "We all heard you yell at her first. It wasn't an accident." Riley stood. "He's thrown things before, at other people." One by one, voices climbed onto the same bridge of truth. Management scribbled notes furiously. The HR director's face was completely unwritable. Victor's eyes darted around the room wildly, looking for someone, anyone who would support him. Nobody stood up for him. Nobody defended his actions. When truth is shared collectively, it grows teeth sharp enough to bite. "This is ridiculous," Victor sputtered. "They're all against me. They planned this together." "Yes, we did," I confirmed clearly. "Because you terrorized us individually for years, so we stood together instead." The operations director stood up. "Mr. Hale, please wait outside. We'll speak with you shortly." It wasn't a request, it was a command. Victor stood slowly, his shoulders slumped. He walked out of the room like a man heading toward his own execution. The door clicked shut behind him. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then someone in the back started clapping softly. Others joined. The sound built slowly until the whole room was applauding. Victor vanished again that afternoon, claiming an urgent client visit nobody could verify. We ran the floor like it belonged to us, because it actually did belong to us. I took the Friday closeout shift and signed my name on the final reports with a steadier hand than ever before. The warehouse hummed with efficient productivity. In Victor's empty office, the dent in the wall caught afternoon sunlight, reflecting the red exit sign nearby. Red light on white wall. Warning, direction. Both things at once. I stood there looking at it for a minute. That scar represented everything. The violence, the fear, but also the moment everything changed for us. The weekend felt different this time. I didn't spend it dreading Monday morning like usual. I spent Saturday with friends, actually laughing. I spent Sunday reading on my balcony, feeling peaceful. My phone stayed quiet except for occasional messages from the group. "Enjoy your weekend. You deserve this. We did it together." Monday morning, I walked into work with my head high. The warehouse felt lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted off the entire building. People smiled at me in the parking lot. Inside, everyone worked with new energy. Victor's office remained empty. His desk was untouched. His coffee mug still sat there from last week. Nobody missed him. If anything, his absence proved how unnecessary his tyranny had always been. On Monday afternoon, Victor arrived with a stranger wearing a stiff, expensive suit, introduced as an organizational consultant. The title sounded impressive, but meaningless. The suit asked loaded questions designed to trap us. Have there been issues with insubordination on this team? Define insubordination, I replied calmly. Refusing to get personal coffee isn't insubordination, it's professionalism. The suit frowned. There are concerns about workplace cohesion. There were concerns about workplace safety, Mateo corrected. Those are different things entirely. We answered every question with calm timelines and clean receipts. Missed check-ins where Victor never showed. Public outbursts witnessed by multiple people. The day the whole office learned to flinch when doors opened. Everything was documented, time-stamped, witnessed. The consultant's pen slowed as he wrote. He kept glancing at Victor with increasingly skeptical expressions. Victor had brought a mirror hoping to see us reflected badly. Instead, he was seeing his own reflection clearly for the first time. These are serious allegations, the suit finally said. They're serious facts, Jordan replied. Allegations would mean uncertainty. This is documented reality. The consultant closed his notebook slowly. I'll need to speak with HR directly before making recommendations. He looked at Victor. You should probably wait outside again, Mr. Hale. Victor's jaw clenched, but he left. The consultant turned to us. Off the record? Document everything. Keep doing that. Victor tried one more desperate play on Tuesday. He pulled me aside near the supply closet, his voice fake friendly. June, listen. I can fast-track you to lead analyst position. Work directly under me. Double your influence here. My stomach turned over. The manipulation was obvious and insulting. I'm not asking for proximity to you, I said clearly. I'm asking for safety from you. The word safety hung in the air like a bell ringing. People nearby stopped what they were doing to listen carefully. They'd heard the entire exchange. You're making a mistake, Victor said, his voice getting harder. I'm offering you an opportunity. You're offering me a ladder into the same pit, I replied. No thanks. I walked away from him. My hands weren't shaking. My voice hadn't wavered. Behind me I heard Jordan say loudly, She said no, Victor, that word you never learned. Scattered applause followed, small, quiet, but real. In his glass office later, I watched Victor make angry phone calls, pacing like a caged animal. He was running out of moves. His tricks weren't working. His threats had no teeth anymore. He'd lost the fear that kept us all in line. Without that fear, he was just a man throwing tantrums with nobody watching anymore. That evening, Kelly from HR emailed me privately. Stay strong. Process takes time, but it's moving forward. That was all she could say officially, but it was enough. The gears were turning. At 2 a.m, a mass email hit everyone's inboxes from Victor's account. New policy effective immediately. Coffee and personal task duties will rotate across all team members monthly. I woke up to 17 text messages about it. I read the email twice, then 3 times, then forwarded it to HR with one line added, "Is this sanctioned policy?" The reply came before sunrise, unusually fast. No. Emergency meeting at 10 a.m. Do not follow these instructions. Victor had written his own indictment in an angry midnight email. He'd created official documentation of exactly what we'd been complaining about. He'd proven our case better than we ever could. At morning break, the warehouse was buzzing. Did you see his crazy email? He actually put it in writing. What an idiot. Mateo was laughing. He literally documented his own misconduct and sent it to everyone, including HR. Jordan shook her head in disbelief. I almost feel bad for him. Almost. Don't, I said. He did this to himself. At exactly 10 o'clock, we filed into the conference room again. This time, the HR director was there with the operations director and someone from legal. Victor sat alone on one side of the table. We filled the other side and the chairs along the wall. Mr. Hale, the HR director began, can you explain this email? Victor opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was clarifying expectations, he finally managed. Without authorization or policy review, the legal person noted, this is not how changes work here. At exactly 10 o'clock, we walked, everybody, quietly, deliberately, in a single line toward the glass conference room at the end of the hall. Victor watched through his office window as an entire department stood up and left him completely behind. His face was pale. His hand gripped his desk edge. In the meeting, the HR director asked directly, do you feel safe returning to work under current leadership? We'd agreed beforehand to answer together. No, we said in unison. 20 voices, one word. The sound filled the room like a thunderclap. The HR director nodded slowly. Understood. Can you elaborate? I spoke first. He threw a weapon at me. He hasn't apologized. He hasn't changed. Jordan went next. He creates a hostile environment daily. Mateo added, his management style is based entirely on fear and intimidation. One by one, people shared stories, some I'd never heard before. A woman named Casey described being screamed at until she had a panic attack in the bathroom. A guy named Omar talked about Victor throwing his lunch in the trash as punishment for a small mistake. Each story added weight. Each story added proof. The directors listened without interrupting. A word said together becomes a door that opens. We just open that door wide and walk through it together. When the last person finished speaking, the HR director stood. Thank you for your honesty. We'll be making decisions shortly. We left the room together, still a unified group. 2 days passed in strange suspension. Victor didn't come to work. A substitute manager handled daily operations smoothly. Then, Wednesday afternoon, the email arrived from the VP of Operations. Effective immediately, Victor Hale is reassigned to our Davenport branch pending review. Official corporate words like strategic realignment tried to smother the truth underneath. But we read between the carefully chosen lines and grinned like we'd cracked a secret code. Reassignment was just exile dressed up with fancy stationery. Davenport is 3 states away, Mateo said, reading his phone. That's not reassignment, that's banishment. Good, Jordan said firmly. He earned it. The email continued with more corporate language about commitment to workplace safety and ongoing policy review. But the message was clear. Victor was gone. We'd won. The warehouse floor erupted in quiet celebration. No loud cheers, nothing dramatic, just smiles, nods, handshakes, relief. People walked lighter, shoulders relaxed. Someone brought cookies the next day. Someone else brought coffee. Good coffee, not gas station garbage. We shared it together during break. To standing up, Jordan toasted with her paper cup. To standing together, I corrected. We tapped cups. In his empty office, someone had finally removed the box cutter from the wall. The scar remained, though, a pale reminder. I was glad. We needed to remember what we'd survived, what we'd overcome together. Before Victor packed up his office on Friday, he swaggered through the warehouse floor one last time like a ghost haunting his own abandoned house. His cardboard box was half filled with personal items. Don't celebrate too much, he muttered when passing my desk. I'll still be in the reports. I'll still have influence. I looked up from my computer screen slowly and met his eyes directly. Not in mine, I said clearly. He stopped walking. For a second, I thought he might say something else, maybe even apologize, but he just sneered and kept walking toward the exit. At the door, he turned back one last time, scanning the warehouse like he was memorizing it. Nobody looked at him. Everyone kept working. He'd become invisible to us, irrelevant. The door closed behind him with a quiet click. Jordan let out a long breath beside me. It's really over. Yeah, I said, it really is. That evening, the substitute manager called a quick team meeting. I know things have been difficult. Moving forward, we're implementing new policies. Open door for complaints, monthly safety reviews, zero tolerance for hostile behavior. She looked at me. June, we'd like you to help draft the new conduct guidelines. Your experience is valuable. I nodded slowly. I'd be honored to help. The meeting ended quickly. People filed out talking, laughing. The warehouse felt like it was breathing normally again for the first time in years. The following Monday, the VP called me into the glass conference room. I went alone, slightly nervous. We need a team lead who can steady the floor, she said directly. You've been doing the job without the title for weeks now. My throat tightened. I thought about the blade flying past my face, the silence after, the first time we said we together. Yes, I said. Then I added quickly, with conditions. She smiled slightly. I expected conditions. What do you need? It was time to spend the courage we'd saved up. I want training budgets for the whole team, real professional development. She nodded, taking notes. Reasonable. A no-yelling policy with actual teeth. Written consequences. Agreed. Safety refreshers every quarter, mandatory for everyone, including management. Done. And a posted protocol that's visible everywhere, no personal errands ever, no exceptions. She looked up. That's standard policy, but I agree we need it visible and enforced. We shook hands. When can you start officially? I already started, I replied. I've been leading since the day that blade hit the wall, she laughed. Fair point. Make it official on paper then. HR will send the promotion documents today. I walked back to the floor with my head high. Jordan saw my face and knew immediately. You got it? I got it, I confirmed. With conditions. The applause started spontaneously. It felt like warm light spreading through the whole warehouse.